everyone, welcome to my show. Be sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube and Twitch for all my exclusive content. Hi, hello there. Welcome back to the channel. How's everybody doing? It's your old pal Tiberius here, gonna do a quick video because we're gonna build a 53 ship today. We were trying to do this Sunday during our live stream, but I came up like 50 billion par steel short of being able to finish the Shipyard. Of course, with the events we've had the last 24 hours, Shipyard, you can see right here, building cost about 610 billion par steel to do the level 53 Shipyard. For those of you keeping score at home, 300 and something days, thanks to some helps, got it down to 288. So let's go ahead and speed this up. Nice big old chunk of latinum to do it too. And then we are gonna go in here. Bam, look at that, 53 done. In case you're wondering what's left to go to Ops 54, Astronautic Studio has to go up. Astronautic Studio, nope, that's the Defense Technologies building. Astronautic Studio is right here. That requires Science Lab, Engine Tech, and Foundry to all be upgraded. Science Lab, Engine Tech, Foundry. Now, previous levels have not required these, so now, again, it's playing more catch-up, using more par steel. Now we're talking about some 5-star materials as well, so we'll save that for an auction event. But now that we have our Shipyard at 53, what can we build? We can just scroll right on over here. No, not an auger. No, not a Katinga. No, not a Newton. Well, we already have a Tribute. Ooh, we can build a Forja. And for the low price of only 360 billion titanium to build it, as well as 8.7 billion with a B, billion dilithium. Takes 34 days as well. Now, while we're waiting to get a few helps on that, I do just want to pull up a friendly little neighborhood website here, stfc.space. We're going to go look at our G5 Uncommon, our Vorcha. See the ship ability, each time the Vorcha is hit, it increases the critical hit damage by 1%. That is cumulative, and it does look like it scales up, although it's showing it as 0.01 here, which is equivalent to 1%. It's weird that they wrote it out like this, but then again, this is the Scopely version of this site. You know what? Maybe it'll look better on this version of the site. Hey, wow, look at that. It's actually displayed correctly. All right, let's use this version for now. So, Tier 1, you're still looking at 1%. At Tier 2, it goes up to 2%, and you have to get it all the way to Tier 4 before it changes to 3%. Now, again, this is every time the ship is hit. So this is basically Picard Beverly's ability as well, where every time the ship gets hit, she boosts critical hit damage starting at 3% and then scaling up as her officer level increases. So this is built right into the ship. So stacking that with her, with Gorkon and those officers, you know, critical hit damage is going to go up pretty high. And if you're doing something, you know, with Hugh below decks where you're constantly getting critical hit damage or critical hits, the damage is just going to be higher and higher. As far as blueprint cost, you can see right there, 450,000 faction credits. No away teams for G5 ships currently, because they are currently the top tier. Away teams stop at 50 with the level 4 G4 epics, if I can talk today. So that's as high as they go. So if you want to get G5 ships, there are, you know, event stores. Usually you can get 15 blueprints because you're limited to about 10% of the requirements. So you can save yourself a little bit. That's what I did last event store back in April. I just grabbed the 15 blueprints that I was allowed, saved myself 45,000 faction credits. Otherwise, this is it. There might be a mission or two that you can also do to get like 2 or 3 out of missions. I think the Corvus has 5 or 6 that you can actually get from missions. I feel like that one's more than the other ones, but don't quote me on that. You'll have to check it out for yourself. As far as build time, normally it's 150 days, but obviously, leveling up ops and research and all that fun stuff gets it down. In terms of upgrade costs, going from tier 1 to tier 2, you're already using not just you're using base common materials, but you're also looks like you're using uncommon materials as well. And that's just going 1 to 2. Usually you get away with just needing commons for like the first tier. Not the case here with the G5 ships. You're spending uncommons already right out of the gate. So we may not be able to tier this thing up all the way because the auction, of course, for Janeway just ended. And we know we've got another one coming up next weekend. So I might just have to sit on that for now. And then obviously going further and further. Also, if you're looking at ridiculous costs here, base cost for titanium, that's 2.76 trillion base cost just to go up the first tier. You're already talking about trillions. Now again, research going to lower that thanks to some new research in the mess hall and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully this will be a more realistic number, but it's still going to be pretty brutal. And then also about 70 billion dilithium. Oof. But as far as damage output, I mean, your base starting with a DPR of 550,000, which is pretty good. Firing pattern, you're looking at energy shots going off every round, so you're doing 4 shots per round. And then you've got this kinetic weapon that fires in rounds. It's round 2, and then it's every third round after that, so 2, 5, 8. So you're getting an extra 4 shots. So you're getting 4, then 8, then 4, 4, then 8. So pairing this up with, an officer like for an armada with an officer like Miles, or for base cracking with an officer like Rom, who's giving you extra shots. Battleship Strike Team, La'an, giving you additional shots. You're going to have some nice multipliers on these shots as well. Crew slots, only 5 crew slots is a little low than we're used to with some of our smaller ships, but it is an uncommon, so that's to be expected. Does have a cloaking ability, does have a relentless assault ability from the armory, but you got to get your armory up to 53 before you can get that going. Could take a little while. As far as warp range, right out of the gate, warp tier 1, 265 is your base warp range. That's before you factor in the particle research, which should have already done, adding an extra 25 total to that. So mine should be sitting at warp 290 right out of the box. And then once I do the first warp core upgrade, it's going to be over warp 300. Should open up some more areas in deep space pretty quickly, although Voyager's going to be like warp 900, so it's kind of everything's just competing for second place at that point, right? So that's what we're looking at with this particular ship. Why did I choose this ship? Is what some people are probably going to ask. Number one, I had the faction credits. I spent my Romulan credits on my Tribune. I didn't have any Federation credits because I've used those to upgrade so many officers. So it was like, well, how many Klingon credits do I have? Well, I had like 250 at the time. It was like, okay, then we're just going to upgrade Klingon reputation and we're going to work on Klingon credits. So that way we can get enough to build it. As far as it compares to the other G5 ships, the Corvus's ability, this improves its penetration stats cumulatively. Good, solid ship. A lot of people go for the Corvus as well. I can't fault them for it. Maybe I'll pick one up somewhere down the road as well. All the other stats should be fairly similar. If we're just looking at, a base DPR right out of the box, it's actually slightly higher. Firing pattern on this might actually be a little better. It's all energy weapons. Excuse me. Was not expecting that. It is all energy weapons, which, is to be expected usually with explorers. You've got the same consistent 4 shots per round firing pattern. However, its third weapon fires every other round, which is why you're getting the higher DPR. One less shot, but 1 round sooner. So over the course of a 6 or, if you look at like a 10-round fight, this is going to shoot more times. But, the Vorcha, that kinetic weapon, probably doing more damage on those alternate rounds. And then Battleship Strike Team is just better currently at the time of this recording. And if you're someone who likes Federation ships, the Northcutt is your interceptor. Its ship ability, each time the Northcutt is hit, its weapon damage is increased by 2%. So every time you get shot, your weapon damage goes up. I like this ability the least simply because there are so many other things that add to weapon damage in the game now, between research and artifacts and buildings and officers and all kinds below deck slots and all kinds of other stuff going on there. So, getting hit a few times and adding 10% to your weapon damage, your base weapon damage, not as big a deal as saying adding 10% to your critical damage. Faction credits, again, as far as upgrade costs, right out of the box, you're looking at, again, a slightly higher DPR, probably because it has a faster firing pattern. So this one's a little bit different, more kinetic weapons than energy weapons. You have a consistent 2 shots per round, and then every other round you get 6 additional. So it is giving off 8 shots. The torpedoes here are firing every other round at 3 and 3, which is pretty solid. This is going to give you a pretty consistent, and the kinetic weapons typically do higher damage compared to energy weapons. You look at the min damage here, you're looking at 70 to 80 versus 108 to 130. So the fact that you've got these 2 kinetic weapons firing on a pretty consistent basis, the Northcutt can put out some serious damage. And when you factor in Interceptor Strike Team with Ducat and his crew, the Northcutt is a solid ship. The only real reason I'm against the Northcutt is just because it requires Federation faction credits, and every new expansion we just get more and more and more Federation officers. So you're going to want those credits to promote them. But if you're not, sourcing these officers regularly, you're not interested in promoting them, or you want to just spend the Latinum, because you can do that at 50 to 1. 50 Latinum equals 1 faction credit. So you could just, spend a whole lot of Latinum, millions and millions of Latinum, to get these faction credits, cash in your multiphasics, don't promote your officers, whatever the case may be. But the Northcutt is a solid ship as well. Did want to take a minute to just point out the 3 of them. All right, our Vorch is down to 27 days. I think we've waited long enough. Let's go ahead and get her built. Ooh. It's a pretty looking ship. It is a pretty looking ship. It's like Christmas in June. There we go. 1 G5 ship built. Starting off at 62 million power. If we're comparing this to a G4 uncommon. So here's a tier 7 Pylum, right? 5 million attack, 4 million defense, 16 million health. Go down here, looking at DPR, about 4.5 million per round. Tier 7 Pylum. Hull bonus, hull health, 18 million hull. 14 million in shields. By comparison, a Tier 1 G5. Again, same crew. We're talking about DPR over 11 million, so 3 times as much DPR, and this is Tier 1. Haven't done any upgrades yet. Don't even have a third officer. Coming on down, got solid defense. Hull health, nearly 50 million. So it's about, what, 3 times, 4 times as much? And an impulse speed of 150, which also isn't bad. It is a battleship, so it should be slow. But if you compare the impulse speed to like an auger, it's 138. Sarcophagus is 133. Like other battleships, 151 is also the speed of the Valador, so they're about even. Obviously, something like the Talios is faster. Kelvin's a little bit quicker. Same as the Jellyfish, so impulse speed, not bad at all. Now let's look at the fun stuff. What is this going to cost to upgrade? Well, let's start right there. Okay, so weapon upgrades, 87 billion approximately. Oof. Plus a whole lot of commons. And we are already starting off with the 5-star resources for at least some of the components here, at least the weapons. These should all be the same. Yeah, weapons using about the same, 6,000, 6,000. This one's using crystal for the photon torpedo launcher. 115 billion. So that's 200, about 285. Cargo bay also using materials again. Wow, okay. Now we're about 310, 350 for the warp engines. There's some more there. That's about 410. So about 475 billion approximately. Tritanium just to upgrade the thing. In addition to all the other resources, which obviously you're going to have to source lots of common parts. Again, you can convert Latinum, but you are looking at a 12-to-1 ratio for G5 materials. That may improve when G6 is released, which we think is going to be the end of the summer. But when that's released, sometimes they do have a tendency to adjust the economies of previous tiers. G3 may not get much of a change. G4 might get a little tweak. G5 should definitely get a pretty reasonable tweak. Maybe from 12-to-1 down to like 6-to-1 or 7-to-1. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Everything gets a little cheaper to upgrade. But as far as upgrading this ship right now, unfortunately, again, well, that's only a very small amount. So I guess we could just do that upgrade, right? Boost our dodge a little bit. Is that really helping much on a battleship? Not really helping much in dodge. Not changing impulse speed. Is there anything else? Armor. Now, armor, on the other hand, would be a pretty significant upgrade. Get more hull health, get more armor. It's a battleship. Armor is its primary stat. So maybe I'll just do like this upgrade. But I don't want to do any of these other upgrades because now we're talking about pretty large quantities. And with 2 more Janeway auctions this month, this could be a pretty reasonable place to put those, to spend those materials. So we'll take her out for a quick test flight. And let's see what we can do. Let's just go hit something, right? Let's just go hit something. Oh. Let's throw her. Let's throw her there. That's the other thing I forgot to do. Ship XP, right? I need to get to 5 to get that first officer slot. And it's kind of an important officer slot because, well, that's the one that Hugh is usually sitting in. And we do need to make sure we got him working. So let's just go hit something, shall we? Something that we were just hitting before, we'll just go hit some 53 X-Borgs. All right, while we're on our way to hit that, we'll just go back and take a look at a previous battle log here. So I was killing these 53 freebooters earlier. I was using Giorgio to get the extra shots with the Tribune. We were taking them down in 17 rounds here for a 53. And each shot, the base shots were doing about 900, 925, 930. Crits were doing about 2.7 million. We got all those extra shots, 2.7, 2.8. Lots of criticals thanks to Hugh. The bigger guns were doing closer to about 7 million in critical damage. If we go look at a 54, should be about the same. This one fight went 20 rounds. Stayed a little bit more hull health. Again, just looking at the base shots, damage-wise, we're hitting for about between 8 and 900,000. The crits are about 2.5 to 2.8 here. A little bit more variance between them. The ones on the 53 were 2.7 to 2.8. Here we're seeing a little bit wider of a range of some of these going down as low as 2.5. Not mitigating much in the way of damage, only about 25% or so, because we are going with the combat triangle. But now, let's just take a peek and see how this fight goes. We'll go hit a 53. I'm using Pike and Ortegas, so I'm getting the mitigation boost from Ortegas. And then I added Picard Beverly just so my criticals scale up and do more damage. We hit a 53. Let's go hit a 54. And we'll take a look at these battle logs here. So again, base hits were like 850, 900, 925, somewhere in that range. And criticals were like 2.7-ish million. Base hits have gone up. And that's a tier 6 Tribune, by the way. My Tribune is tier 6. All right, so base hits, we've gone up 1.25. Standard damage here, 1.25. Now I'm getting hit back, so Bev's going to boost me by 5%. A little bit right off the bat, but you can see the first round criticals are going to be pretty close to normal, and we're hitting for just about 4 million. So a significant increase here in round 1. Now we get the big weapon fire in. These are 11.5 million. Some pretty big hits, and they're going to continue to scale up. And if we go back up to the top here, the whole fight went 14 rounds this time around. It was 17 with the Tribune. Now we look at the 54. This fight last time went 20 rounds. Again, slightly different crew. Obviously, Beverly's going to speed things up a little bit as well. But Georgia was given extra shots on the Tribune, so maybe I'm sure there's a break-even point between the two of them. I'd have to do a little more in-depth analysis to figure out exactly where that variance comes from. But this fight was a couple rounds shorter, and again, looking at similar damage amounts, 1.2 million for base hits, nearly 4 million for criticals. So a pretty significant upgrade straight out of the box with, I only did the one armor component just to give me a little more hull health and, a little better mitigation. We are mitigating incredibly well. Again, they're going against the triangle. Ortegas is boosting it. This should be like 70%. 125, 418, 179, 886. About 70%. Not having extra officer slots below deck, and Hugh only being, pretty low tier there, not having full stats is probably dragging Ortegas down slightly compared to other ships, but overall, I'm very happy with my new acquisition, and hopefully this motivates some of you guys out there to keep moving forward and what you have to look forward to in the near future or distant future. But thank you all very, very much for watching. Hope to see you on one of my live streams over on Twitch, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sunday mornings. Tuesdays, Thursday evenings, Sunday morning. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit that little button, hit the like button, leave a comment if you have any questions. Otherwise, uh, I'll see you on one of my live streams. If I don't, see you around the galaxy first. Take it easy.